Hi, I'm Ariel and I'm going to discuss the challenges of climate change. So, climate change is caused mostly by excess CO2 being released into the atmosphere. There's nowhere for all of this excess CO2 to go, so it's messing with the atmosphere and affecting the climate. It's causing the Earth to heat faster than it would under normal circumstances. The Earth naturally goes through cooling and heating phases, but the release of excess CO2 in the atmosphere is causing the current heating phase to be increasing faster than normal. According to NASA, the temperature has risen about 1.62 degrees Fahrenheit since the late 19th century, mostly in the last 35 years. This might not seem like a lot, but it causes major changes to our natural environment. So a couple of these changes. Climate change is causing many changes around the world. It is affecting species range and migration patterns. Studies have shown that over the years, bird migration is happening sooner each year. Even a couple days makes a big difference. This has been seen with many species all over the world. The excess CO2 is also causing oceans to become more acidic, which is killing marine life and changing the habitats in the ocean. According to NASA research, ocean acidity has increased about 30%. Oceans are one of the greatest CO2 absorbers on the planet, rivaled basically only by the rainforest. The ocean is getting more acidic because CO2 absorption is increasing by 2 billion tons per year. CO2 causes the oceans to be more acidic. So, some ethical ramifications to climate change. Basically, the humans are the main cause of climate change, so making any changes to help with the problem means that humans have to change their ways. Humans are causing animals and plants to go extinct and destroying habitat with climate change. Dealing with climate change ethically affects fairness and responsibility. Fairness because humans are causing the problem, so they must fix it. Fairness because the changes that need to be made do not affect everyone the same. Fairness and responsibility because past generations started the problem and current or newer generations have to fix it. Responsibility because changes have to start somewhere. So, there really isn't a lot of policies addressing climate change, but in 2015, the UN held a summit, and again in 2019, and the countries that were there at the summit were to sign an accords to agree to make changes to their countries to benefit climate change because they all recognized the problem that climate change is causing. Until recently, no real policies in place directly affect climate change. Almost all the countries that went to the UN Climate Change Summit agreed to make the necessary changes to how they were living and how their countries were running in order to help slow down CO2 emissions and help with climate change. Currently, there are conferences held regularly to discuss the current changes due to climate change and possible things that can affect climate change for the better. So, as of right now, the big thing that would help with the climate change accords would be if all of the countries had agreed to sign. But currently, Angola, Eritrea, Iran, Iraq, Libya, South Sudan, Turkey, and Yemen did not sign the accords. And it would also be effective if the countries were making the necessary changes to help mitigate climate change. Just talking about it does not solve the problem, which is the biggest issue that we're having right now. While countries did agree to make changes, currently not much is happening. The quarantines all over the world are showing impressive signs of helping the climate, but these changes will likely revert when the world is no longer on lockdown. So, ethical approaches that could improve the problem would basically be if people considered animals and other ecosystems that are being affected. If we actually considered what was happening to other ecosystems that didn't just affect ourselves. I would say that conservation ethics and land ethics would both be great ethical ways of improving climate change, like White and Tuttle discussed in Ecological Sustainability as the fourth landmark in the development of conservation ethics, which was one of the papers from week 4. Conservation ethics would be good in using because it is about quantifying ecological problems and sustainability practices, which could make it easier for non-scientists or regular people to see the problems that climate change is causing, allowing countries to move forward with plans to change. A lot of the problem is people don't understand what they're looking at. Land ethics would be good because it's focusing on the ecosystem level of environmental problems, which can show a larger picture of how climate change is affecting the world. Also, humans need to be considered as part of the biotic community in an ecosystem, not just plants and animals. So basically we need to consider every aspect in an ecosystem, not just how humans are being affected or how plants and animals are being affected. We need to take everything into consideration. Some sustainability practices that would be great is if we stopped burning coal and other fossil fuels. We went to wind and solar power if there was less traffic and more carpooling, or more eco-friendly vehicles for places that are not able to do such a thing. I will say I know that there are some small countries in Europe that have stopped burning coal. So the biggest change that could be made for countries to actively start making the changes they agreed to in the Climate Change Summit. There are some countries that are making changes, like some countries in Europe getting rid of coal burning altogether, but the progress towards a world where humans aren't affecting climate change as harshly as we are now is far in the future. We are just not doing enough at this point. Information about climate change needs to be made easier to read for the regular public. Scientists have a problem of saying things with proper terms that the regular person may not understand, or not explaining graphs and tables in a way that the regular person could understand. If scientists could make their findings easier to read for the general public, they might be more convinced to make changes because they could actually understand what they're reading and what the problem actually is with climate change. And that's my works cited. Thank you very much.